According to constitutional mandates, this year marks the imperative for the presidential election. The president also holds the prerogative to dissolve parliament and call for a general election. A current contention suggests that the president, should the need arise, could dissolve parliament through the endorsement of 113 members. At the recent cabinet session, deliberations centered on two pivotal electoral considerations. The latest edition of the Daily Mirror reported that the president had instructed the cabinet to prioritize preparations for the impending presidential election during yesterday's meeting. Citing sources, the newspaper reported that the president has stated that according to the country's constitution, the presidential election should take place first and arrangements will be made accordingly. When questioned on the matter today, Minister Mahinda Amaraweera provided the following insight.
ජනාධිපතිවරණය තියනවා කියලා ජනාධිපතිතුමා කියලා තියෙනවා. ඊයේ කිව්වද කැබිනට්? නෑ ඉතින් අපිට කැබිනට් එකේ කියන ඒවා කියන්න බැහැනේ. ඉතින් කැබිනට් එක කියන්නේ රහස්නේ.
During discussions surrounding the presidential election, Justice Minister, President's Counsel Dr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa has put forth a proposal to amend the system for electing members of parliament. Despite the proposed alterations, the total number of members of parliament will remain unchanged. Out of the 225 MPs, 160 will continue to be elected by voters within their respective constituencies. The remaining 65 MPs will be elected through proportional voting at both the national and provincial levels. Yesterday, the cabinet reached a consensus to seek the expertise of legal drafters. Their task is to formulate the necessary legislation, incorporating the recommendations put forth by the committee chaired by the Prime Minister. Justice Minister Dr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa elaborated on the need for constitutional amendments.
I have produced my proposal to the cabinet and I hope to produce it to this house. The confusion that marred the existing system must be solved. For that we need to make certain constitutional amendments. I hope to bring forth a resolution for the need of the Senate.
Pafrel says this is likely another attempt to delay the elections.
අපි දන්නවා පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණ ක්‍රමය සංශෝධනය කරලා එහි
It took over 2 years to amend the local government electoral system and to conclude the delimitation process. The provincial council elections have not taken place for over 5 years. By way of electoral amendments, legislations are being passed. However, political groups could not agree with the delimitations. Against such a backdrop, if not possible to amend the electoral system, pass legislation and conclude the delimitation, it would result in the delay in elections, or else the parliamentary elections would encounter a natural death.
එහෙම නැත්නම් ස්වභාවිකව පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණය කල් දැමීමක් මිය යාමක් හැටියට මේක සිද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
This is the position of the Institute for Democratic Reforms and Electoral Studies.
The rulers of this country have decided to bring amendments to the electoral system at a time when we need to prepare for elections. We request that the President and the Prime Minister make way for the presidential election in 2024 and parliamentary election in 2025. We are amazed by this cabinet decision. The executive president is using the cabinet.
අභ්‍යාස කිරීම සඳහා අතකොළුවක්සේ යොදාගෙන කටයුතු කරමින් සිටින්නේ කැබිනට්ටුව මේ දිනවල.
The Frontline Socialist Party says the government is engaged in a conspiracy to do away with elections.
The election system with regard to the parliamentary election is mentioned in the constitution. This is a constitutional amendment. You need to have a two-third majority as well as a referendum. These take time. In addition to that, the regulations need changes. There are changes related to the votes as well. The delimitation process must take place. The government is trying to use these means of not holding elections. The final objective of this cabinet decision is such. The government is conspiring not to hold the elections.